Hello everyone, it is Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome to another Top 10 list. This video will be my top 10 antagonists in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! This video is kicking off my Arc 5 Bonanza week, where I will be uploading a top 10 list every day for the entire week in honor of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 coming to an end. This video has been requested by a lot of people, so I'm really excited to finally make it, and I'm even more excited to hear from all of you and hear what antagonists are your favorites. Feel free to leave your lists down below. I will also do an honorable mentions list at the end of making this list, so definitely stay tuned for that as to why someone may have been snubbed for me. By the way, a character is eligible for this list in my opinion if they were evil for at least 25 to 30 episodes, a movie villain, or were a main end of season villain. This is all opinions, remember, and I really hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right to it. Number 10. Starting off this list is the leader of the Arcadia movement, and that is Divine, or Sayer in the dub. This might be one that not a lot of people have on their list, but I absolutely love Divine as a villain. The guy was absolutely wicked, manipulative, and really had all the traits I look for in an antagonist. I also enjoy the villains who don't sit back and wait for the final duel to take action, which maybe will give away some villains that might not make this list for me. In this case, though, the only reason Divine isn't higher on this list is just that. He had no big final duel, and himself in the Arcadia movement had a lot left to be desired. Divine dueled Rua, or Leo in the dub, and Carly, and he beat them both very easily. He is also responsible for the death of Misty's brother Toby, as well as Carly's death before she became a Dark Signer. I just loved his role in the Dark Signers arc because while you had the immediate threat of the Dark Signers, you also had him and this crazy cult running rampant as well, and rarely do you ever see two evil factions colliding in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Plotline, but that is exactly what happened in this instance. Had he been given proper closure, he definitely would have been higher on this list for me. I still love his ruthlessness and dueling ability, and for those reasons, he just makes this list at the number 10 spot. Number 9. Our first Yu-Gi-Oh! GX villain makes this list at the number 9 spot, and that is Sayu, or Sartorius in the dub. This is another guy who might not make the list for a lot of people, but as someone who loves gambling, not in a problematic way, I absolutely love the concept behind his deck, because that's really all it is. It's a gambling/destiny deck. He led the Society of Light, which almost destroyed the world, and practically did destroy Duel Academy in Season 2. He would brainwash people and manipulate them into quote-unquote seeing the light and joining the movement, and what I love about his character besides his deck is just how involved he was with the entire Season 2 plot. The only guy who could beat him was Judai, or Jaden in the dub, which is nothing to be ashamed of. He picked up very impressive wins against Manjome or Chaz, Tyranno, even Edo or Aster in the dub. He even remakes an appearance in Season 4 and duels again, which I don't think any major villain has done before, in the sense of being defeated in one season and then reappearing way down the road, and that Season 4 duel was awesome between him and Judai. All in all, between his deck, his ability to lead a group and manipulate others, the fact that he absolutely goes insane at the end of the Edo duel, and his dueling abilities, Sayu makes this list for me at the number 9 spot. Number 8. In the number 8 spot, we have the only movie villain that makes my list, and that is Egami. Now, if you have not seen Dark Side of Dimensions, I highly suggest you do. Takahashi just knows how to write amazing villains, and Egami is right there with the villains of Duel Monsters, in my opinion. Of course, it is kind of difficult to say that since we only see him for a movie, and I feel like there was a lot left to be desired with his character, but for only being in a single movie to just make this list is achievement alone. He really steals the show along with Kaiba, and I just love how he is fighting this inner battle of ideologies the entire movie, whether he should give in to hatred after watching Bakura kill his master Shadi, or should actually listen to Shadi and not give in to anger and hatred. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Villain, so of course he gives in, and his final form is some crazy, disgusting lizard-looking dude, thanks to the power of the Millennium Ring. His dueling ability is right up there with Kaiba and Yugi, although I do wish he picked up at least one win during the movie. That is definitely a pretty big negative I have about him, but just the fact that he was able to decimate anyone he wants, minus Kaiba, because he's Kaiba, with the Millennium Cube, really just made you nervous anytime he interacted with anyone. There are many reasons to watch DSOD, and Egami's character is one of the top reasons. He makes my list at the number 8 spot. Number 7. Another GX villain comes in at 7, and that is Yubel. I really enjoyed Season 3 of GX, and when you think about it, every single thing that happened was because of Yubel. I also like how they gave us a backstory with Yubel that linked him or her to Judai's childhood. I still don't know what gender Yubel is, but the wiki refers to her as a girl, so we will too, just for the sake of this video. She just manipulates everything in Season 3, and I love that about her. She was also very involved with the plot. Besides just being manipulative, she possessed certain people and dueled through them. She defeated Ryo Marufuji, or Zayn, using Johan or Jesse's deck. She defeated Amon, or Adrian Gecko in the dub, and she doesn't even lose to Judai. She draws draws with him using Johan's deck. Then the duel does not have a conclusion when they verse each other right after. I thought her redemption scene was actually done really, really well, and she is one of those underrated but really well done villains. She then merges with Judai and helps him out in Season 4, which didn't feel strange because, again, the redemption felt very natural, even though she practically killed all of his friends in the previous season. Yubel is one of the better duelists in the GX universe, and the way she was able to dictate everything in Season 3 earns her a spot on this list. Number 6. We have our first Zexal villain coming in at 6, and that is 4, or Quattro in the dub. 4 is Tron Sun and one of the 3 Arclight brothers, but is by far the most sadistic in comparison to his brothers. He puts on this completely fake facade around his fans, but when he duels people, he shows them his true quote-unquote fan service, which often involves him brutally defeating his opponents. His sadism is well demonstrated by his deck, where he uses puppet monsters, which, if that's not creepy enough, his number 15 gimmick puppet grinder literally shows an opponent's monster getting, you guessed it, grinded to oblivion, which is just uneasy to watch. 4 defeated Shark in a past tournament thanks to framing him for cheating. I wish 4 had a couple of other big wins, because a lot of duelists he beat were one-shot duelists. His redemption made sense, and all in all, he was just a twisted guy, especially in the beginning parts of Zexal. I really loved watching him. 4 is also indirectly responsible for almost killing Shark's sister Rio, setting an amusement park on fire and severely injuring her in said fire. I say indirectly because he was unaware the card was going to do that, and was the one who carried Rio out of the fire. Why mention this? Well, it segues pretty nicely into number 5. 4 takes 6th place on my list. Number 5. Number 5 is the man responsible for giving 4 that card that almost killed Rio, and that is his father, Tron, or Vetrix in the dub. While I loved 4's sadism and persona, Tron's was just even beyond that in my opinion. He is also credited as the only character ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal to defeat Kaido in a duel, which was a fantastic duel. Tron has the ability to read minds and steal memories, which he did from Droid or Dextra in the dub. That duel with Droid, by the way, watch that duel and you really get an understanding of how twisted this guy is. His motivations are also understandable as well, since he was betrayed and left for dead by Dr. Faker. Also, the fact that he was pretty much using his sons, who are awesome characters like puppets, was a pretty interesting concept to see. The guy learns the error of his ways when Yuma tries to save his life after they duel, despite all the hell he has put Yuma and the others through. Tron was written very, very well, and for someone like me who just loves purely sadistic villains, I loved watching him. Along with that, he actually defeated Kaido and didn't only duel once. Another check on the list for me. Tron just cracks the top 5 on this list. Number 4. And we have our first Duel Monsters villain appearing on this list, and that is Bakura. Bakura is probably one of the most well-known villains in all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, and he is my favorite main antagonist of any show. Bakura really only duels a few times, which is kind of a shame, but he is the one who set up the entire RPG game in the 5th season, where he was just a complete badass, so it kind of makes up for it. The guy saw his village get burned to the ground, and everyone inside it get slaughtered in an event known as the Kolnelna Massacre, which is why he has so much resentment in his heart. Yami Bakura is also the guy who created Dark Games and was sealed into the Millennium Ring 3,000 years before Duel Monsters takes place. Both times he duels against Yugi, the decks he uses are terrifying, and the strategies fit him so well. One was the Destiny board deck, and the other was a deck destruction deck, although he obviously comes up short in both duels. Going into details about Bakura would take such a long time since there is just so much depth to his character to cover, but I love him for his creepiness, sadism, and the fact that he's a smart guy. He knows how to get all the Millennium items, he revives Zork, which is himself, and puts everyone in that RPG game during the dawn of the duel arc. He's just such an iconic villain, and Bakura comes on my list at the number 4 spot. Number 3. Might as well keep with the Duel Monsters antagonists, and Pegasus is the man who takes the bronze on this list. If you've seen my anime versus manga analysis that has to do with Pegasus, I'm sure you know I love him as a character. He is the first villain ever in Yu-Gi-Oh! And he truly is a terrifying adversary, probably most known for his Yugi Boy or Kaiba Boy catchphrases. He is definitely one of the most iconic characters from the entire Yu-Gi-Oh! Series. I usually prefer the more unhinged villains, but Pegasus is evil enough where he doesn't need to be unhinged. The fact that he can just trap people inside cards and steal people's souls is terrifying enough. Moreover, the guy picked up very impressive wins before he was ultimately defeated by Yugi. He beat Yami through the videotape, really because the timer ran out, but still technically counts as a win. And then he manhandled Kaiba, who really didn't have a chance in that duel. I don't want to sound repetitive by bringing up points that I brought up in the anime vs. manga video a few weeks ago, so I definitely suggest watching that if you want to know more about Pegasus. But the fact they gave him a great backstory, made him a terrifying and seemingly untouchable opponent, and gave him a few important wins in the first arc, makes him take the number 3 spot spot, the bronze medal on this list. Number 2. Just missing out on the top spot is another Zexal villain, and that is Vector or Ray, whatever you want to call him. I've said it before, and I truly believe that Vector is the best villain we have had in a Yu-Gi-Oh series in the last 10 years. He is responsible for almost everything that goes wrong in Zexal. He revived Don 1000, he possessed Dr. Faker, and he is just the ultimate troll. Never in a Yu-Gi-Oh show have we had a character troll as much as Vector does throughout Zexal, and honestly, it was hilarious to watch. But don't let that trick you into thinking he's a funny guy, because he is one of the most twisted characters we have had in a Yu-Gi-Oh show as well. All you need to do is watch his duel against Marik and Durbe, and you'll see why he is so high up on this list. His mannerisms, and moreover than that, the voices he does, is just downright terrifying. And every time I watch him duel, I always have this mixture of joy and horror, because the guy has incredible trolling skills that I really do appreciate, but at the same time, he's just a seriously effed up character. But you know a character is written magnificently when their death scene actually makes you feel bad for them. There is no reason you should feel bad for Vector when he dies, but you actually do, at least I did, and that is just so much credit to how well his character was written and executed. Also, let's be honest, watching Yuma get trolled is one of the best things that Zexal did. Zexal had a lot of great characters, and Vector nearly tops that list in my opinion, and he nearly tops this list as well. So Vector is the runner-up, and now the moment you have all been waiting for, the best antagonist in all of Yu-Gi-Oh, in my opinion. Number 1. The best villain in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is Marik Ishtar from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Marik is my favorite villain out of the villains. To me, he is just everything I look for in an antagonist. Pure evil, a great duelist, a backstory that makes you completely understand why he is the way he is. And did I mention pure evil? Which is personally my number 1 criteria in judging a villain. Marik acquired his evil side because he was forced to stay below ground to protect the tomb of the pharaoh. Obviously, this was completely against his will, and among other events that occurred, became hell-bent on revenge and watched his evil persona kill his father. Let's be honest though, his dad was an absolute prick and probably had it coming, but either way, this begins Marik's long quest to get revenge on our protagonist, Yugi, more specifically, Atem. Marik terrorizes Yugi throughout Battle City by sicking Pandora, the Exodia Hunter, Strings, among other rare hunters after him. He even goes as far as to kidnap and brainwash Joey and Taya and force Yugi to duel Joey, the loser being pulled into the ocean by an anchor chained to their leg. What I loved about Marik was even when he was not dueling, he was still pulling the strings to so many sadistic different things that went on through Battle City. And when he was involved in duels, they were brutal Yami games. He defeated Mai, defeated Joey, heck, he even defeated Bakura. The dark games he fought those three in were also vicious and entertaining to watch. Even the duel that killed his evil self against Yugi was a great and unpredictable dark duel. Marik technically doesn't even get defeated by Yugi. His pure self was able to win his body back and surrender. Marik is just a fiendish, extremely talented duelist, and in my opinion, he is the greatest antagonist we have seen up to this point in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's that. Whether you agreed or disagreed, I really hope you enjoyed my top 10 antagonists in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! I know these 3 might appear on a good amount of lists and will probably be considered as the 3 biggest snubs of the video. The reason Darts did not make it for me, he just never really clicked with me. Again, I hate villains who only duel once at the end of the arc, and that was Darts. Also, the whole 4th season of Duel Monsters just never resonated with me, and it just seemed like a very awkward arc. I know a lot of people love him, and a lot of people love that arc. It's probably my least favorite arc in Duel Monsters, though, personally. As for Zone, he probably would be number 11 for me. Again, another villain who just kind of sat back and dueled at the end of the show. Sure, he beat Aporia right before he dueled Yusei, but Aporia did not pick up a single win throughout 5Ds. Still, Zone isn't a bad villain by any means, and just because a character didn't make this list doesn't mean I thought they were a bad villain. Yuri would have made this list around the 7 to 8 spot until they completely destroyed his redemption. He was redeemed and became a quote-unquote hero without any explanation or signs of remorse from him, and that killed his character for me. So yeah, those are probably the 3 biggest snubs from this list, but nevertheless, it's all personal taste at the end of the day, and I cannot wait, really cannot wait to hear from all of you in the comments below. I hope you leave your list down below. I will talk to you down there. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an amazing day.